The skies over Earth changed that morning. Not with thunder, not with storm, but with a shadow so vast that satellites screamed before men could even see it. It appeared above the Pacific, a silent colossus of silver and light, like a city turned upside down. Oceans heaved beneath its gravity well. Storms were born just from its presence. For the first time in recorded history, every radio frequency on Earth went quiet, not jammed, but silenced, as if the air itself refused to carry human voices. Then came the voice. "This is the Galactic Consul. You have been observed. You will submit tribute." The words weren't spoken through speakers or broadcast systems. They arrived inside minds in every language at once. Even the deaf heard it. Even the sleeping stirred. On the deck of the UN Defense Tower in Geneva, Commander Elena Vale gripped the railing and stared at the projection hovering over the council table, a rotating silver emblem surrounded by alien glyphs. Her heart pounded like a drum. "Run it again," she ordered. Her voice carried steel, but her fingers trembled slightly on the edge of the table. The technician replayed the first transmission. The alien's voice was cold, deliberate, neither cruel nor kind, but ancient, as if speaking to insects too small to comprehend the weight of their own survival. "You are permitted one cycle of your sun to prepare your tribute. Refuse, and we will claim what is owed by force." A silence followed that could have broken worlds. The leaders of nations sat frozen, their faces pale under sterile lights. President Daniel Reeves, who had once been a soldier before he was a diplomat, leaned forward slowly. "Tribute?" he asked, his voice low. "What do they want?" The technician hesitated. "We don't know, sir. The message's last sequence shows planetary coordinates, ours, followed by a series of resource markers: gold, uranium, water, genetic sequences." "Genetic sequences?" Elena repeated. "They're not after minerals." Reeves nodded grimly. "They're after us." Outside, across the world, panic spread like wildfire. Every news network, every live stream, every whisper on every street corner repeated the same words. "The consul has come." Churches filled overnight. Cities turned off their lights to make the skies clearer, as if people needed to see what was watching them. And there it hung, silent, untouchable, unmovable, the consul's flagship, its surface shifting with rivers of light, its edges sharper than reason. Elena stood before the glass wall of the command tower as dawn broke over the Alps. "Sir," she said softly, "if they can silence our communications, they can read our systems." "We can't fight them." Reeves turned toward her, eyes weary yet defiant. "No, Commander. We can always fight. The question is, can we win?" She looked back at the alien vessel, its immense form blotting out the stars. "If they wanted us dead, we would already be gone." "They're testing us." Reeves gave a quiet, thoughtful nod. "Then let's give them an answer they won't forget." That night, as the world governments gathered their scientists, strategists, and theologians in one continuous emergency session, humanity felt something it had almost forgotten: unity. From Beijing to Berlin, from New Delhi to New York, people stopped arguing and started listening. Engineers traded blueprints. Soldiers shared data. Hackers became heroes overnight. The world had one question, and every living mind turned toward it. How do you stand against gods? Elena stared at the holographic globe as digital models of the consul's ship swirled with calculations and theories. "They can hear everything," she said softly. "Every word we speak, every plan we make." Reeves looked at her, and for the first time she saw the spark that made humanity different. A quiet, dangerous imagination. He smiled faintly. "Then we'll whisper where they can't hear, in the language of fire." And so, as the alien shadow loomed, humanity began to prepare, not to surrender, not to plead, but to remind the stars that Earth still burned. The alien voice returned exactly 24 hours after the first transmission. No countdown, no warning, just silence and then sound, rippling through the consciousness of 8 billion souls. "You have not delivered your tribute. You have one final cycle of your moon. Refusal will result in reclamation." And with that, the skies themselves answered. A beam of soft white light lanced down from the colossal ship, striking the middle of the Sahara. It wasn't an explosion. It was erasure. Sand turned to glass. Air turned to vacuum. For 3 seconds, a desert ceased to exist. Then as suddenly as it had begun, the beam vanished, leaving behind a perfect crater of shining crystal, a scar visible from orbit. Panic erupted. Governments shouted. Armies mobilized. Satellites pivoted their cameras, capturing the wound on Earth's skin. But in the chaos, a strange calm spread through the halls of the United Nations Command. Commander Elena Vale stood tall before the tactical display, her voice steady. "They just proved their power," she said. But that wasn't an attack. It was a message. We can do this anywhere. President Daniel Reeves turned toward her. "And we need to send ours." He looked older now, sleepless. The weight of humanity rested on the slope of his shoulders. But in his eyes, that same flicker of relentless fire. "What do we have?" The scientists responded in sequence. Conventional arms, useless. Lasers, no penetration. EMP fields, minimal interference. And then from the back of the chamber, a soft voice. Project Dawnfire. Every head turned. It was Dr. Arjun Sen, chief physicist of the Strategic Energy Division. His tone carried both fear and conviction. "It was theoretical. We built it as a deterrent, but it can breach atmosphere shields." Reeves raised a brow. "You're telling me you can hit that thing?" "Not directly," Sen said. "But we can make it bleed." The room fell quiet. For the first time, humanity had an idea. While the diplomats argued, the consul's presence deepened. Across the world, new ships appeared, smaller, blade-shaped vessels that hovered over major cities. They did nothing. They simply observed. Children stared at them from windows. Soldiers kept rifles trained on their gleaming forms. The ships reflected everything: clouds, sunlight, fear, but showed nothing of themselves. In the heart of Geneva, Elena walked the perimeter of the defense tower's upper balcony, her mind heavy. She remembered her father's words when she was a child, watching rockets lift from Earth's soil. "The stars don't care, Elena," he had said. "You have to make them care." Now, as she looked up, she whispered, "We're trying, Papa." Behind her, Reeves joined quietly. "You think they'll actually destroy us?" She considered. "No, I think they want to see what we'll do. Maybe they've done this before." Demanded tribute, watched species kneel. Reeves's jaw tightened. "Then they've never met humans." The next morning, a transmission went out from Earth, the first one since the consul's arrival. It was sent on every possible frequency, layered with old analog noise, encrypted patterns, and fragments of languages dead for centuries. It wasn't words. It was music, a rising symphony of sound, violins, drums, human voices blending in a single surge of defiance. The melody was ancient, Beethoven's Ninth, the Ode to Joy. Every alien drone hovering over the cities paused. The consul's vessel rippled faintly in orbit, as if processing the strange transmission. For a single, breathtaking moment, the entire planet sang. Deep within the flagship, in a chamber of flowing light and geometry, the consul observed. To them, humanity was a young, fragile race, newly emerged from its cradle. But now they saw something unpredictable. They felt the resonance of that song, not merely sound but emotion. Defiance wrapped in beauty, rage hidden in harmony. "They send music as reply," the consul murmured. "Primitive, irrational." Another voice, colder, mechanical, answered, "But it moves the frequencies of our own core systems." A pause. "Then observe longer. Their surrender will come after understanding." But Earth did not surrender. In hidden bases beneath mountains and seas, the plans for Project Dawnfire accelerated. Reactors flared to life, satellites repositioned, scientists whispered equations like prayers. And in a quiet room overlooking the sleeping city, Commander Elena Vale wrote the first line of Earth's final message. To the consul. "We do not pay tribute. We do not kneel. We are humanity, and we will answer." The world had changed in only 3 days. Factories once silent with debt now roared with purpose. Every nation turned its gaze skyward, not in fear, but in fury. Humanity had been threatened before, but never together, never as one species. Now, as dawn broke over the Atlantic, an army of minds worked without pause. Deep beneath Iceland's volcanic crust, where molten rivers pulsed like veins of the planet itself, Project Dawnfire came alive. Commander Elena Vale descended into the heart of the bunker, surrounded by the hum of reactors and the rhythmic clatter of engineering crews. Every corridor echoed with urgency. The air smelled of oil, ozone, and sleepless hope. Dr. Arjun Sen stood over the central control array. His hair wild, his eyes hollow from days without rest. "Elena," he greeted softly. "We're close. How close?" she asked, scanning the holographic display that filled the room. A spinning projection of the consul's flagship above Earth. Hours, not days. The payloads are aligned. The nuclear lattice is stable. But the delivery system... He hesitated, exhaling. "It's never been tested in atmosphere." Elena's gaze sharpened. "Then we test it in orbit." Sen looked at her, half admiration, half dread. "That could trigger a chain reaction if the containment fails." She smiled faintly. "Then let's make sure it doesn't." Above them, the alien ships drifted in formation like silver leaves caught in a cosmic wind. The consul's voice had gone silent since the Ode to Joy broadcast, but no one doubted they were watching. In the skies, strange ripples shimmered, distortions that looked like mirages moving with eerie precision. Civilian cameras captured them, millions of feeds streaming online as the world held its breath. Every major power sent messages to Geneva. "We stand with you." Even old enemies shared resources. Borders dissolved. For the first time in millennia, Earth spoke with one voice, and that voice whispered through radio waves and encrypted messages. Dawnfire begins at 0600 UTC. In the command center, President Daniel Reeves stood before the world's leaders. His voice broadcast across every continent. "My fellow humans," he began, his tone solemn yet fierce. "We have been told to surrender, to offer tribute, but humanity does not exist to serve." He looked into the cameras, into billions of eyes. "We build, we dream, we fight, and when the stars demand our submission, we answer with fire. Today we remind the universe who we are." Cheers erupted in cities around the world. Soldiers wept. Civilians lifted their eyes to the skies and whispered prayers to a god they weren't sure existed. At 0559 UTC, Project Dawnfire activated. The bunker shook as massive containment rings spun around a core of impossible light. The weapon was not a single bomb. It was a network of repurposed warheads guided by synchronized AI patterns, forming a lattice of nuclear fusion designed to pierce through any atmospheric shield. Elena stood at the console, her hand hovering over the final authorization key. She felt her pulse in her throat. The hum of the machinery sounded like the beating heart of humanity itself. "Ready," Sen whispered. Elena glanced once toward the screen displaying Reeves's command chamber. His nod was silent but absolute. She turned the key. The world held its breath. In orbit, the alien ship's surface rippled, sensing the sudden spike of human energy output. Energy beams lanced outward from its core, forming shimmering shields. Then from the curve of the Earth, humanity's answer rose. Dozens of glowing streaks arced upward through the atmosphere, burning like new stars. They carried not just warheads, but defiance, invention, desperation. They struck. The sky ignited. Nuclear fire bloomed in silence, each detonation blooming into a golden corona that rippled across the alien barrier. Space shimmered. The consul's ship absorbed most of the energy, but for the first time, its shields flickered, and in that flicker, the whole world saw it. A fracture, a wound in the armor of a god. Humanity erupted in cheers. For one breathless moment, Earth believed, but then the sky darkened again. The consul's vessel pulsed, once, like a heartbeat, and the oceans trembled. Clouds twisted into spirals. "They dare." The voice rolled across continents like thunder, deeper than sound, colder than death. They dare defy the consul. Every human felt it. The fear, the awe, the realization that the real battle had just begun. In the silence that followed, Elena whispered, "Then we've made them bleed. Now we find out if gods can die." The retaliation came without warning. Just as dawn kissed the edges of the continents, the consul's flagship stirred, its immense body shifting like a living continent of steel and light. Then a low hum spread across the ionosphere, resonating through the bones of every creature on Earth. Satellites blinked out, one after another. Power grids surged and died. Communication vanished in a single breath. And then the heavens fell. Columns of white fire descended from orbit. Not beams, not lasers, but gravitational strikes that folded the air itself. Each one tore open the clouds, leaving behind silent, glowing craters that pulsed like wounds in the planet's skin. Cities shuddered. Mountains trembled. The oceans lifted and fell like living beasts. Humanity's first counterattack had provoked the Consul's wrath. In the chaos, Commander Elena Vale awoke in the bunker to alarms blaring red. Concrete dust fell from the ceiling as the facility shook. "Status," she shouted, pulling herself upright. Dr. Arjun Sen stumbled to the console. "They're hitting power nodes worldwide. EMP waves. Gravitational compression strikes. It's not destruction, it's suppression. They're trying to disable us." Elena's eyes widened. "They want to break our coordination." The screens around them flickered momentarily, showing the UN command tower in Geneva, half the building in flames. President Reeves's feed cut to static. Elena felt something deep in her chest. Not panic, but grief sharpened into resolve. "Then they think we'll surrender once our leaders fall," she said. "They're wrong." In orbit, the Consul observed through their shimmering lens arrays. The voice of the central mind echoed through the chorus of lesser units. "Their aggression is illogical. Their resistance wasteful." Another voice, colder, answered. "And yet they do not yield," the Consul paused. Through data streams and observation feeds, they witnessed something unexpected. In every destroyed city, humans helped each other. No orders, no hierarchy, no command, just instinct. People running toward danger, digging through ruins, lighting fires in darkness. They are resilient. Resilience does not matter. They cannot win, perhaps, but they will make it cost us. Days passed under fire. Earth's sky turned red from atmospheric dust and ionization trails. Yet the human networks began to recover. Makeshift radio stations appeared. Old analog systems, immune to digital corruption, came alive again. It was humanity's oldest strength, adaptation. On the fourth day, Elena managed to re-establish contact with a fragment of the global defense network. Static filled her earpiece, and then a familiar voice. "Vale? Commander Vale, do you read?" Her breath caught. "Reeves?" "Alive," he said through the crackle. "Barely. We've lost contact with Asia Command, but the European grid's stabilizing. Tell me Dawnfire wasn't our only shot." She smiled through exhaustion. "Not our last. Dr. Sen's already building something new." Reeves chuckled, though pain filled the sound. "Of course he is. Tell him he's got the full planet's prayers. And Commander, tell everyone the world still stands." Then the line went dead. That night, Elena sat beside the glowing projection of the alien flagship. Its surface now bore 3 shimmering scars, remnants of the nuclear lattice strikes. They were faint, but they were there. Sen approached quietly, carrying a small metallic capsule. "We call it Dawnfire Echo," he said softly. "Same lattice pattern, but decentralized. Hundreds of microcores instead of one." Elena looked at him, eyes tired but alive. "You built a storm," he nodded. "One that doesn't need permission to strike." For a long moment they stood in silence, listening to the low hum of the earth beneath them. "Do you ever think," she whispered, "that maybe they're right? Maybe we're small, too small to matter to the stars?" Sen smiled faintly. "We are small, Elena. That's what makes us dangerous. The stars don't notice the ember until it burns their hand." High above, the Consul's ship began to move again, slowly descending. The air trembled across continents. The voice returned, deeper than thunder. "You have wounded the Consul." The words rippled through every mind. "Your defiance is meaningless. Your sun will burn alone. Prepare for reclamation." And yet, as humanity trembled under those words, something else stirred. Something the Consul could not quantify. In every shelter, in every bunker, in every ruined street, people lifted their eyes and whispered not in fear, but in defiance, "Let them come." For the first time since the invasion began, the Consul felt something they could not name, a ripple of uncertainty. Like a storm in the void, humanity was not breaking, it was awakening. The stars above Earth shimmered with restless light. The Consul's flagship loomed closer now, its lower hull brushing the upper atmosphere like a silent storm. The world's horizon burned red where its engines touched the clouds, a dawn that never faded, and yet beneath that shadow, humanity refused to kneel. In shattered cities, survivors gathered in candlelit shelters, building antennas from scraps, rewiring radios from museum displays. Farmers gave food freely, Scientists shared code in open networks that pulsed through the last remaining satellites. Across language and border, across belief and grief, Earth remembered what it meant to be one people. The Consul saw resistance, but what they could not see, not truly, was the soul behind it. In the Icelandic bunker, Commander Elena Vale stood over a massive projection of the Consul's ship. The image rotated slowly in the air, showing stress fractures, points where the nuclear impacts had weakened its shield geometry. Dr. Arjun Sen pointed at the largest fissure. "Here," he said. "We've analyzed its rotation pattern. The lattice damage recurs every 37 seconds. That's our window." Elena studied the glowing crack, her heart pounding. 37 seconds to hit a target the size of a continent. Sen gave a faint smile. "That's 36 seconds more than we need." She almost laughed, but her voice caught instead. "You think we can actually destroy it?" His answer came softly. "No, but maybe we can make them see us as something more than insects. Maybe they'll hesitate. That's all we need. Hesitation." Above the Atlantic, hundreds of small submarines and stealth drones moved silently beneath the waves. Each carried fragments of the Dawnfire Echo lattice, miniature reactors designed to link through resonance. The plan was madness. The world's remaining nuclear payloads were distributed across the planet, each tied to a harmonic synchronization code that would create a global pulse, not to destroy the Consul's ship, but to tear a hole in its field long enough for a single strike to pass through. Elena called it Operation Pulse. "Every nation has armed," Sen told her. "Even the ones that once refused. It's not governments anymore. It's people." As preparations reached their climax, Elena climbed to the surface. The world was quiet, eerily beautiful. Snowflakes drifted through the dim light of an endless twilight. Overhead, the Consul's ship stretched like a second horizon, silver veins pulsing faintly. For a moment, she simply stood there, breathing the frozen air, her heart filled with something she couldn't quite name: awe, fear, pride. From the east, a small group of soldiers approached, bearing an old, weathered flag, deep blue with a single Earth symbol stitched in white thread. They planted it on the ridge above the bunker. No words, no anthem. Just the symbol of home. Elena whispered to herself, "Let them see what they're trying to erase." Inside the alien flagship, the Consul's council gathered. Forms of light and energy filled the chamber, whispering in tones that rippled like water through crystal. Their networks are reactivating, their surface weapons rearming. They prepare another strike. Insignificant, yet their persistence distorts probability. They behave beyond predictive logic. Then we will correct them. The Consul's core pulsed. Its voice rolled like molten metal. "Begin reclamation." And so the great ship opened its lower gates. Beams of soft blue descended, not to destroy but to seize. Matter began to lift from the ground. Soil, metal, even water rising upward like dust in reverse gravity. Humanity watched in horror as cities began to unravel. "Elena," Sen shouted over the alarms. "They're stripping the planet. If they reach critical altitude, we lose everything: atmosphere, oceans, life." Elena slammed her hand on the command console. "Activate Dawnfire Echo." Synchronization incomplete. "Now, Arjun." He hesitated for only a heartbeat, then pressed the final key. Around the world, the sky lit up with streaks of light as hundreds of human-made payloads launched simultaneously. They rose through the Consul's gravity fields, burning like defiant embers against the impossible sky. The alien beams wavered. The extraction halted. Then the lattice ignited. A pulse, invisible but immense, rippled through the atmosphere. The Consul's energy field shattered. For the first time, the colossal ship reeled. And through that temporary wound, humanity sent its last weapon, and a single missile, bearing the old call sign of every resistance radio on Earth. Liberty won. It streaked upward like a falling star in reverse. "Trailing golden fire," Elena whispered as it rose. For every voice that refused to kneel, the missile struck. A blinding white radiance filled the heavens, and for one breathless instant, every human heart felt it. The impact, the defiance, the echo of survival sung into the void. Then all fell silent. Silence. For a single heartbeat across the globe, silence reigned. Not the quiet of night, not the hum of survival, but the pause of the universe itself. The missile, Liberty 1, had pierced the fracture opened by Dawnfire Echo. Inside the console's core, the explosion erupted with impossible force. Energy cascaded outward in spirals of light and fire, ripping through conduits of alien matter. The flagship shuddered. Its shields flickered, then collapsed entirely. Cracks raced across its hull like lightning on glass, and then it fell. From orbit, humans saw it first as a glittering rupture in the sky, then as a storm of silver debris cascading toward the oceans. Cities watched from miles away as fragments struck with colossal force. Yet Earth endured. Humanity's ingenuity had not only survived, it had weaponized resilience. Commander Elena Vale stood at the edge of the Icelandic bunker, watching projections of the event. "It's gone," she whispered, disbelief in her voice. Dr. Arjun Sen shook his head slowly, still glued to the lattice readouts. "Not gone," he said. "Broken, disoriented, they won't recover easily." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Then they've learned something important about humans." Across the planet, signals returned. Radio towers sparked to life. Satellites realigned. Voices shouted across cities in celebration and relief. President Daniel Reeves appeared on the first open broadcast in nearly a week. His face was tired, bruised from stress and sleepless nights, yet his eyes gleamed with fire. "People of Earth," he said, voice trembling with emotion, "today we faced gods, and today we told them that humanity is not for surrender, not for tribute, not for chains. Today we reminded the stars that our will is not measured in size but in courage. Today we stood as one." The world erupted. Cheers, tears, and laughter broke across every continent. For the first time in memory, every human being shared a single, unbroken moment of triumph. But amidst the victory, a strange weight hung over Earth. Debris from the consul's ship littered the oceans. Radiation pulses flared from shattered shields. Satellites and communication networks struggled to recover. And yet more profoundly, the survivors felt something deeper, a confirmation. Humanity had faced the impossible and survived. Elena walked through the ruins of the once active command center, watching as crews dismantled damaged equipment, salvaging every ounce of technology. Soldiers helped civilians clear rubble. Scientists whispered equations as if writing poetry. She paused at a cracked viewport, staring into the horizon. "They will return," she said quietly. Sen approached, silent but understanding. "Maybe, but now we've shown them. We are not afraid, and fear is their greatest weapon." Elena nodded. "We've learned how to fight them, and ourselves." In orbit, fragments of the consul's flagship drifted like frozen stars, silent witnesses to humanity's defiance. Their sensors, once calculating every action on Earth, now struggled to interpret the unquantifiable: courage, hope, and unity. "They are unpredictable," a voice whispered through the alien remnants. "Indeed," another answered. "Persistence, emotion, resistance, illogical, dangerous." The central mind pulsed faintly, fractured and flickering. For the first time, the consul confronted a variable it could not erase, a species that refused to bow. Back on Earth, Elena and Reeves walked together through the twilight of a world scarred but unbroken. "Do you think they understand what they've faced?" Reeves asked. Elena shrugged. "They understand that humans are not tools. We're not insects. We're fire, and fire burns even when the wind tries to snuff it." Reeves smiled faintly. "Then let them see us burn again and again if they must. We'll rise each time." Above them, the stars shone a little brighter, as if witnessing the audacity of life itself. Humanity had looked into the void and refused to kneel. Humanity had answered the impossible with ingenuity, courage, and defiance, and in that answer, Earth found something eternal, a spark that no alien power could ever extinguish. That night, the world slept under skies still marked with fragments of alien light, yet alive with quiet celebration. From ruined cities to frozen tundras, people shared stories of heroism, of loss, of survival. Every whisper, every laugh, every heartbeat was testimony to one undeniable truth: humanity was not alone in the cosmos. Humanity was a force, and now the stars had learned it. The first true dawn in a week bathed the planet in soft gold. For the first time since the consul arrived, humanity could look up at the sky without fear. The horizon was streaked with fragments of silver light, remnants of a shattered flagship that had once seemed invincible. The winds carried the faint hum of distant energy pulses, but the threat had passed. For now, Commander Elena Vale stood atop a ridge overlooking the Icelandic command center. Around her, soldiers, scientists, and survivors shared quiet smiles and tears. The world had endured the impossible, and it had survived. Dr. Arjun Sen joined her, holding a small device that hummed faintly in his hand. Dawnfire Echo has been disassembled and secured, he said. Parts of it will be studied for decades, perhaps centuries. But the important part, humanity has learned its own strength. Elena nodded, letting the warmth of sunlight brush her face. Not just strength, she said softly. Hope, ingenuity, unity. We've shown ourselves and the universe that life does not bend to terror. Across the globe, cities slowly rose from rubble. Communications returned. Farmers replanted fields. Engineers repaired power grids. Humanity rebuilt not merely with necessity but with pride. President Daniel Reeves appeared on every remaining channel. His voice carried the weight of grief and triumph. People of Earth, he said, we have survived an invasion unlike any in history. We have lost and we have gained. We have faced beings who thought themselves gods, and we reminded them that humans do not yield. Today we honor the fallen, celebrate the living, and embrace the future. Today we claim our right to exist as we choose, not as tribute but as free beings of a free planet. Across continents, cheers erupted. Tears fell. Songs of defiance and gratitude blended into a single unbroken chorus. Humanity had not just survived, it had proven itself. In orbit, fragments of the Consul's fleet drifted silently, scattered across the void like fallen monuments. Sensors, once flawless and calculating, struggled to interpret the unquantifiable. Courage, sacrifice, ingenuity, and the indomitable will of a species unwilling to kneel. They endure. Despite all logic, a voice whispered among the remnants. Dangerous, unpredictable, persistent, another answered. Perhaps they are more than a challenge, the first voice murmured almost reverently. Perhaps they are a warning. The Consul, fractured and silent, withdrew from Earth's orbit. Its fleet would return only when it understood fully the fire it had encountered. Humanity had left its mark, not in conquest but in defiance. On Earth, Elena walked through the streets of Geneva. Buildings still bore scars, yet people moved freely, laughing, talking, rebuilding. Children played near fountains, unaware of the nightmare their parents had survived, yet inheriting its lesson. Courage comes not from the absence of fear, but from confronting it. She paused near a ruined square, where a single tree had survived the chaos, its branches stretching toward the sky. She placed a hand on its bark. Even the smallest life survives, she whispered. Even against the greatest shadow we endure. Sen approached quietly. Do you think they'll ever come back? Elena smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the rising sun. If they do, we'll be ready, and they'll know humanity does not kneel. That evening, the world gathered in quiet remembrance. Memorials rose in every city, not only for the dead but for courage itself. The flame of humanity burned brighter than any shadow the cosmos could cast. From the frozen poles to the deserts, from oceans to mountains, people looked to the stars and whispered the same truth. We are Earth, we endure, we rise. And no one, no being, no God, no conqueror, will ever make us bow. The sky, still streaked with shards of alien metal, seemed to shimmer in response. Humanity had declared itself, not as subjects, not as prey, but as equals in the vast, indifferent expanse of space. And somewhere, beyond the edges of comprehension, the universe listened. The dawn settled. The winds carried new hope. Humanity had faced the impossible and lived. The stars had demanded tribute, and humanity had answered with fire, with courage, with unity, and with the unyielding truth that life, in its most defiant form, cannot be conquered and Earth would never forget.